What's up, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of Bird's Eye View, the true stories of professional overseas basketball. I'm your host, the one and only Erica McCall, aka Bird, because my last name is McCall. And we're back with another episode. For those that know me, I am a fifth-year WNBA player, about to go play my fifth year overseas in Turkey, y'all, next week. So I'm excited to share some more fun stories with you guys of what my overseas journey will be like over there. And first off, I want to get a shout out to everyone who's been listening into this podcast. We are recording episode 7 right now. So all who've listened in before that, I appreciate you guys. It's been a beautiful journey and we're going to keep it rolling. And the reasoning for starting this podcast for those who are just now tuning in is because everywhere I go, everyone is asking me what overseas basketball is like, what's the language like, what's the food like, the basketball, and the list goes on. So I wanted to bring a podcast that helps educate everyone on that helps people hear the different stories that I'm hearing when I'm playing with different teammates and coaches. So I wanted for you guys to hear that. And so therefore I have brought to you guys Bird's Eye View. And with each episode, we bring a different topic. So let's see if I can remember, y'all. So for episode 1, we did basketball with Sydney Weiss. With episode 2, we did overseas relationships with Cy and Jess Gorey. Episode 3 was motherhood with my lovely sister, Dewana Bonner. Episode 4 was faith with Nia Coffey and co-host Sydney Weiss. Episode 5 was past versus presence with Val Whiting. Episode 6 was food with the lovely Stephanie Mavunga. And episode 7, y'all, is going to be so much fun. I know I say it every episode, but episode 7 is all about coaching overseas. And I have a GOAT with me. I have a legend with me right here today. Her name is Coach Pokey Chatman, and she is sitting right before me, well, virtually. So Pokey, thank you. Thank you for being on.
No, my pleasure, Bird. It's fitting that you're doing this because your overseas experience always seems so much fun. And I would always point that out to people because you really took advantage of it. So I'm glad you're doing this.
Well, thank you. I'm trying to help people get to take advantage of their experiences as well. So I'm hoping this podcast and bring some light to what overseas is all about, because truly overseas is all about a mindset. You know, if you have the right mindset when you go into it, you're going to enjoy it. You're going to enjoy the basketball. You're going to enjoy the experience. But if you don't, it's going to feel like a drag. I know you know that.
Right. Exactly. I
Well,
do. Yeah. And you said you said the mindset because it's a little bit different pace. And I know you always talk about the language barrier, but you nailed it. Mindset, gathering information like you're giving, gives people a head start. So let's get to it.
All right. Well, before we get started on everything, I got to give an intro of who you are. Everyone in the basketball world should know who Pokey Chatman is. But if you do not, let me give a breakdown of who this lovely coach is. So for those, many people may not know, but Pokey was a baller at LSU. Okay. She was a 4-time starting point guard. Pokey, I got all this from your lovely website. Beautiful, by the way. So I'm like, hey, Mom, Pokey's website is really cool.
Thank you. Thank you.
She was starting point guard at LSU from 87 to 91. She was a 3-time all SEC selection. And she still currently holds the school record for career steals. So clearly, y'all, she's looking surprised. Like, yeah, girl, you.
No, I'm just glad. Listen, I'm just glad I played when I played because I'm watching you guys out there, and the athleticism was not my friend, so I would have struggled a little bit. So it's just funny listening to that and watching you guys take this game to super heights.
Hey, I'm looking at these high school kids dunk it left and right, and I'm like, what are they feeding them? So
that part.
It's quite phenomenal. All right, moving on. After she played at LSU, she moved on to become an assistant coach, where she coached there from 92 to 2004, and then she transitioned to head coach from 2004 to 2007. During her time coaching at LSU, she coached some LSU greats, some WNBA greats, such as Simone Augustus and my old teammate, Sylvia Fowles, she's freaking lovely. Now I get to see why you love Syl so much. Like, she's just the sweetest person. During her time there at LSU, she went to 3 Final Fours. She won 2 SEC titles. And then after that, she went on to become a WNBA coach, where she was the general manager and head coach of the Chicago Sky from 2011 to 2016, where she took them to the finals in 2014. And then she went on to become my coach with the Indiana Fever from 2017 to 2019. So Coach Pokey was my coach for 3 years. And I truly thank Pokey because the way that I see basketball now, it took me a long time to get the hang of the WNBA rhythm, the way that you see the game. A lot of it was based upon the fundamentals that you taught me. So thank you, Pokey. I really appreciate that.
Oh, you were an easy student, quick learner.
Oh,
Ready. Thank
you.
You know you are. You know that IQ was off the charts.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And y'all, you know, we are an overseas podcast, so we got to break down the overseas accolades. So Pokey was a brilliant coach in the States, but then she went on to go coach in Russia. And from 2007, 2010, she went to coach at Spartak, which is in Moscow of Russia. And she served as an assistant coach there for 3 seasons and then went on to become a head coach for 1 season. And she went 4 for 4. For all 4 seasons, she won a EuroLeague championship. That's freaking hard, y'all. If you guys don't know anything about EuroLeague, that is really, really hard to do. When you hear Spartak as a women's basketball player, you know that is truly a club of royalty. They had amazing players, amazing coaches. It's just, they were freaking balling, man. And so she's an amazing coach overseas. And then Pokey, I didn't know this, that you were also the Slovakian national team coach for 2 years.
I was. That was when I was an assistant coach in Spartak. The lady Nata, who was like the Pat Summit of European professional basketball, introduced me to that, and she wanted me to lead her country. So that's how I stepped into that, and it ended up being one of the greatest basketball coaching experiences of my life. So that was a fun little nuanced part of the career.
Wow. Okay, well, we'll break that down in a couple of minutes when we get to the interview, but that is the long list of all the accolades. I'm sure there's many, many more, but I just want to hit the big hitters, y'all, so y'all can really get to know who my guest is today. Well, Pokey, we broke down everything of who you are, but before we get into the interview, I like to do a little icebreaker with all my guests to help you guys get loose, so you guys, really tell everything about your overseas experience. Okay. So I always give a corny name for all my overseas games, because I'm a corny person. So for the game today, it's been called X's and O's, and we're just going to get to know a little bit more about you and the way that you think, and attack the overseas game. So, okay, this one is a fun one. So you're down 3. I'm gonna do this. This is a coaching question. You're down 3 with 5 seconds left in the game, and you need someone to hit a 3 to tie up the game for y'all to go into overtime. What are you drawing up, and for what player? Any player.
Okay, it depends on what year, because you said all those accolades, but I was truly blessed to have an abundance of players from.
Absolutely.
And I don't want to name them all, but I guess because she just finished in her finals as a runner-up with Taurasi, it would have to be.
I had a feeling you were gonna say that.
Involving Taurasi, and what's so beautiful about Dee is that it's not always her taking a shot; it's her, having the ball in her hands and making the reads. And that was the beauty of being with Spartak. You had so many options, not just the American players, but it would definitely involve something with Taurasi and probably Lauren Jackson, because they can both shoot the 3. And that's a post guard. So that's an easy one. And you throw in the Sue Bird, and it makes life a little bit easier.
You just coach all these dope people, and
it was crazy. Look, Bird, I said, just let me get the hell out the way and don't mess them up. How about that? My ego's not that big.
That would be my mindset too. I'm just gonna let y'all do y'all and help facilitate.
Yes.
That's what it's all about. Cool. I had a feeling you're gonna say that, but then you just started throwing out all these other dope players, and I'm like, yeah, shoot, they can all hit it too. Sure. Okay, this one's tough because we were just talking about all the amazing players that you just coached. If you had an all Pokey Chatman team, we're going 1 through 5. Who are you putting in every position? This one's a toughie.
Wow.
Has anyone asked you this question before?
No.
Oh, yes.
No.
Yes.
I'm going with Sloot, Moan, Dee, Seal, and Lauren Jackson.
Ooh, that's a good team.
And look, and I don't say that because a knock on anyone else. I'm thinking Size, power, a stretch
Absolutely.
five, and Lauren, experience, mixing them all up. Yeah, I think it just gives you a lot of options there. And sometimes some of the younger players don't realize how great Lauren was.
Yeah.
With that original stretch five. So yeah, I think I would have to go there, start there. You don't get me in
Wow.
trouble.
This is just purely fun if
I got
anyone's
you. I got
listening
you.
in.
I
But no,
got
I love that. I love that answer because many people would think, I don't know, different players, and you purely base it upon not just, okay, this is the best player in this position. It's the whole team together.
Yes.
Cohesiveness. Yes. So I think you're safe with that answer. I think a lot of people are like, okay, that's the way she's thinking. That's a true coach's answer.
Yeah.
Okay, next question. If you can go back in time and relive any year of your coaching years, what year would that be?
Any years of my coaching year. Relive. Oh, wow. Oh God, Bird, it's so many years. Oh wow.
Would you like
abroad.
to do
abroad? Abroad?
Let's do abroad. Let's do abroad.
All abroad.
Yeah.
I would go back that first year because I was literally in awe for about 3 to 4 weeks because I was asked to go over early to train Lauren Jackson. And I was like, am I being punked right now? Are you really serious? So it was that. And then, we're real proper here in the States. And so I kind of took a step back. I think I was 3 weeks behind because I wanted to find my place. And I was an assistant coach and you didn't want to be that American taking over everything. But you realize that's what they bring you in there for.
Yeah.
Right. So I think I lost some time, but only about a month or a month and a half. But I would do that over again because I would have immersed myself a little bit early in the totality of European culture and basketball. I would do that.
Wow. Beautiful answer. But no, it's true though. When you go overseas, like it takes time for you to just even realize, okay, I'm in a whole new world, a whole new journey that I'm about to experience. Like it took me, like you said, about a month for me to be able to like really hit the ground running and for me to become more of a successful basketball player because it just took me a month to be able to figure out everything.
Oh, I agree. I agree. Just from speaking more concise, and making a decision to learn Russian and yes, basketball is universal, just that whole thing. I think it would have helped some of the younger players a little bit earlier, but it wasn't even in my brain to think about it in that capacity. So I think that would have gotten us off to a quicker start with the younger players. But you live and you learn.
And I'm sure that's another reason why you became successful. You learned that, you went on and used the tips that you learned from that first month to become a successful coach overseas. Perfect. Well, last question. If you had a choice to coach an international team, so not a team of the U.S. national team, but any international team in the Olympics, what country would that be and why?
Goodness gracious, God. Oh, I guess silver or bronze, right? That's the closest thing to beating the USA, right? I mean, Japan or France, just because, last time we played, they were I think, if you want to coach the best and you want to coach against the best, I think, last time out, those countries showed, where they are and things. So I think it would have to be one of those two. Well, it's in Paris, so France.
Yeah. But if you were coaching Japan, how would you attack that? Because the Japanese style of play is very different from the States, very different from European style basketball. They're all kind of about the same height. They can all kind of do the same things. And I'm just thinking on a coach's perspective, how do you attack coaching that type of style of play?
Yeah, I think you go back to, at LSU, probably, I think maybe the year before Simone came, 2 years before we started running motion. Mm-hmm. And I think that taught everyone every position. So it's spacing, it's high and wide, it's touches. So you can invert players. And so I think I would go back to that mindset, but also if you're going to be tasked with that, you have to watch the progression of those that came before you. And you look at what Tom did, right?
Absolutely.
And I think sometimes early on in your coaching career, coaches are hard-headed. You're going to try to make players fit. That's not really cool. It's easier to morph and more successful to morph. So I think I would start there.
Okay. I love it. I love, like, I get true coaches answers. When I was with Steph, like, I was getting like chef-like answers. I'm like, and I'm getting coach like, I mean, you're obviously a coach, but I love to hear the different mindset of it, because it's completely different from a player's mindset.
Okay.
So, beautiful. Okay, well, that was the interview. It was a few tough ones for you, but you passed.
I can relax a little bit now.
Now you can relax. And we're just going to move into the interview. So tell us how you got into coaching overseas, because that's not common for an American coach to go over there and to attack that opportunity.
Yeah. I left LSU in March 2007, and it was July. Simone reached out to me, Augustus, and said, "Is it okay if I give Tina Thompson your phone number?" Because, back in the day, you were kind of private with people's cell phone number. And Tina reached out because at the time, Spartak had always had an assistant coach that was American. Shabtai was way ahead of the game in terms of wanting to marry the European style with American style in coaching. Because I think Corey from Phoenix had been over there, Carlene, who had been at LA, Atlanta, now she's with Tina at Virginia. And so that's how it started. And it wasn't even in the realm of thinking for me, I'm like, okay, let me see. And then all of a sudden it happened like in 3 or 4 days. And that's how it started. And I stayed 6 years. I didn't think I would stay that long. Yeah. Even overlapped a little bit with the WNBA, but it was such a rewarding experience because, I learned a different style. It taught me how to be a better teacher. I had to understand how they trained a lot more hours a day than we did. Mm-hmm. And I had to adjust to that, and I'll be honest with you, I can remember saying, wait, the trainer's going to get 40 minutes, 45 minutes. I'm going to get, and not being disrespectful, but that was an adjustment for me. Yeah. And so, okay, you think about, okay, I'm here now. So I have to, marry some of the things that I think could elevate that. So that was the start. It was Tina Thompson, and then I became an assistant coach. And 6 years later, I stayed there. Had a really, really great experience.
Wow. Well, let's talk about, you talked about a little bit about the style of play. How much more different was that for you? First of all, you came from coaching college, so that's going to be a different style of play already from coaching college to the pros. But how much of that of the adjustment was that for you going to coach in Russia?
Yeah, the true basketball part was, some of these kids or young ladies, they turn pro when they're 16 or 17. And so they understood the game a little bit better in terms of where you start. In college, 4-player workout, you're really basic. So they're a little bit more advanced. Then I was really intrigued, and I enjoyed the fact that my 6'5" post player, Ira Osipova, was my best passer because she played the point. It didn't matter when she got taller. She handled the basketball. So those type things. And then you start incorporating that. The biggest adjustment to me was that defense was non-existent. And that was a really hard. No. Let me rephrase that.
Okay.
It wasn't that big of a deal. It was like, oh, we're going to outscore you. And that was tough for me coming from college, but I understand the game is, they were a little bit ahead of in terms of pace and, multiple positions and positionless basketball.
That's what I always say when people ask me what's the biggest difference between European style basketball and American basketball, it's the pace. The pace is completely different. I think that to me as well, I think sometimes it can be a bit more physical, but then again, I also play the 5 when I'm overseas. When I play in the States, I'm more of the 4. That's just a less physical position. Right. But the pace is completely different. The way that they attack screens, the way that that they pass, it's just on a whole different level.
And I agree 100%. And you mentioned post, the perimeter is more physical, right? Yeah. You think about coming from college, you can't even touch them, right? Yeah. And then you can be a little bit more physical in the pros, but I mean, I can remember watching games before I even went abroad. And I'm like, wow, they let them be physical 20 feet away from the basket, and yeah, that was an adjustment as well, big time.
For sure. I was talking about that with Sydney Weiss and how she was playing Spanish style basketball and how like it's a lot more finesse in that style of basketball compared to when I play. I played in Hungary, but I played under a Serbian coach, and our type of basketball is way more physical. And I haven't played a lot of Russian teams. So what style of play is Russia like?
I think they're physical at every position. I don't think it's like smash mouth, football, lack of skill. I think it's the skill, but they're not afraid to hit you. And they're okay with being hit. And I mean with the screen or, jump over your head. They just kind of had that mentality. They expect to get it and they're okay with giving it. But yeah, I know. Look, I coach Milovanovic and Sonia Petrovic. So yeah,
Milovanovic is a beast.
Oh my
Plays for
gosh.
4 years.
I know.
Yeah, 4 years. Yeah. So I was also talking, with Sid, how much different is just the mindset of it, because we're talking about physicality right now. And I've never experienced like where my coach wanted us to get 5 fouls within the first 5 minutes. It was a requirement. If we did not get 5 fouls in the first 5 minutes, he was highly upset with us. As opposed to when we're in the States, don't touch the player. We don't want any fouls at all. We don't want anyone to get in foul trouble. My coach said, if you get an illegal screen, kudos. That's good. That's showing that you really trying to hit the player. Right. Illegal screens in the States, terrible.
Yes. When they call them.
Yeah, exactly. When they call them, it's just a different style of play. All right, well, let's move into difficulties. So, one, you're a Black woman. A Black woman in America is hard. A Black woman being overseas, I can imagine, was extremely hard, especially you were in a position of power and a lot of Europeans had to listen to you. How difficult was that for you to transition to that and then just maintaining that level of power and control out there?
I don't know if it's a product of the place I went first or the Russian mentality of Shabtai was okay with it. Wasn't about Black and woman. It was about, oh, you're kind of good, right? Mm-hmm. And I can remember a friend of mine, Christy, came to visit, and he was like, she's a good coach. Why didn't you tell me? She got up to work out one morning and she was down there working with some kids, and that's all that matters, right? And mainly because they want to beat us. Yeah. They want to be the best. And so I never felt that, because a lot of times as an expat, Russia's so vast, you don't see a lot of people, but there's an expectation that you're at the university or you're involved in sports. So it wasn't as big of a deal. Maybe I felt it more when I went to the smaller countries. But I don't know if it was necessarily negative. It was always the looks, right? Yeah. In that regard, a little bit of an, I don't want to say issue, coaching the Slovakian national team was definitely unique in that aspect, because I'm an expat, I'm Black, I'm female, and I'm coaching their team, small country. So had to deal with that a little bit from some outside forces that were really inside, if you know what I mean. And then at the end of the day, I don't necessarily think it was about the Black and female. It was about an outsider in their world. So I think I've been fortunate in that regard. So, I'm sure other people have not, but I was pretty lucky.
Yeah, I would think that would have been more difficult for you. So I'm very happy that you had a more pleasant experience. I mean, if I would have saw a coach these days, like you said, it was more common for an American to coach overseas. But these days, like, I never see any American coach overseas, maybe a few here and there. But if I would have saw a Black woman coaching, I would be like, yo, that's so dope. They got this Black woman in Europe, and they out there killing. Like, I would have thought that is the dopest thing, because I don't see anyone Black. Maybe in France you get a few more Black coaches because they have a bigger Black population, but
Right.
anywhere else, unheard of.
Yes,
So
you're right. You're right.
So kudos to you. I think that's just the dopest thing. Let's talk a little bit more about your Slovakian experience. How was that? Because probably with Spartak, you had more players and more Americans. Of course, you had a lot more Americans spoke English. It was probably a better or easier experience for you, as opposed to when you're with the Slovakian team. They're strictly Slovakian, and you probably had to learn the language more. And how was that coaching and being able to get to know the players on that level?
Yeah, and actually, Bird, it was the opposite. Most of the Slovakian players could speak English, and I don't know if it was like small country mentality that, you know, universal language, we're going to learn this. It was actually easier. Russians, because I dealt with a wider age group, you know, like sometimes they would want to bring up a teenager, right, to be on that team, and didn't really understand the language. So I made a decision to speak a little Russian and learn Russian. Didn't take a translator, you know, just to be able to say, you know, Zavtra trenirovki 10:30, practice tomorrow at 10:30, right? Just something small, because they're always so, oh, my English is not good. And I'm thinking, your English is better than mine. And I sure as hell couldn't speak Russian. So I actually learned Russian and not a lot of Slovakian, because they were eager to learn the English as well. But both language barriers helped me listen and teach better with less words. You know, they make fun of us, right? They say, you Americans, too many words. Like we'll say, like I might ask you, what time you getting up tomorrow morning, Bird? They say, what time stand up? And I'm like, yeah. Oh yeah, you laying down, you gonna stand up, right? So like, damn, we talk too much, right? So that was huge for me. And yeah, so I learned a lot. I got better as a human, not just a coach.
I can imagine. For me as well, going overseas, I become just a way better person, learning to actually listen to my teammates, learning more about who they are, what their culture is all about, because a lot of people go out there and just be selfish. They just play basketball, go back into their room. If you don't really want to know the culture and who your teammates are, man, you're missing out on a beautiful experience playing overseas. And I'm sure coaching overseas has been absolutely a beautiful experience, and I'm truly appreciative of it.
Yeah, I agree. And I know sometimes people will say, well, you were older. And I'm thinking, I was like that when I was playing USA basketball in '87 and we went to Brazil.
Yeah.
You know, I remember Carol Callan made, you know, when coach, they made the team learn the currency, the land, you know, we did a little report wherever we went and played. So I just had that mindset of learning, and it became a really good experience for me. So it became second nature. But you're right, because we're there so long and we can get in this rut and we don't really grow. And you're like that rat, you know, that hamster on the wheel. Get your check. Hopefully it's not a couple of days late. You know, I think you're excited for about 3 days and then you kind of get in the rut. So I think it's gotten better because people like you are talking to people and helping them along the way. And I think it's gotten better.
Well, I hope anyone listening to this podcast, if you're young or about to go overseas or you're in overseas right now, that you can listen to this conversation and gain some perspective on how you can make your overseas experience all the more better. Okay. A few more questions left.
Okay.
You coached some legends. Diana Taurasi, we mentioned them. Diana Taurasi, Sue Bird, Tina, Simone. When they played overseas, did you see a different style of play in them as opposed to when they played in America, or were they strictly the same type of player in both situations?
I think they were the same player. They became coaches because, you know, everybody wants their bonuses, right?
Yeah.
And then they're competitors and they want to win. So I watched them communicate to the younger players or you know, less experienced players. And you know, you got Tina Thompson, you know, coaching you up like Shugala, you know, a couple of Russian players, and it's like, that's what I saw. Their game didn't change. I think they expanded their game because it was the freedom to do that, and they had time to work on it, right? Because you have all that time. And so I saw a lot of people working on their game, working on their body and lifting weights. Because what else you gonna do? You got 3 massages in a day. You should go work out. So they expanded their game and they worked on their game and they became more vocal and coaches on the floor. I can say that for all of them.
Yes. Let's talk about a little bit more about the league, the time that you have in the league to develop players as opposed to being overseas. First of all, I always say that anytime I go overseas, I improve as a player. Not saying I don't do that in the league, but I just have time to truly work on my game. You have coaches that come to you in the morning, you got 2 practices a day, you work, and it's all like, I was just talking to my trainer about this. He was like, man, what do you guys do? Like, when you're in your practice, I'm like, it's all fundamental drills. It seems like you guys work. I'm like, no, we don't really work on plays. The plays are because the fundamentals that we learned and you implement that into the play. It's not the play and then work on your fundamentals through the play.
Right.
So let's talk a little bit about you coaching between the States and overseas and how you develop players with that.
Yeah, that first year in Chicago, I was like, I got 8 practices and we got to play a game. I said, this is not real life, right? Like I'm the only person that had to do that. But it was suffocating to me. Like you think about it and you know it ahead of time. But like when you're in it, you're like, okay, wow. So that part was daunting. But more specifically, we made a commitment in Chicago just because we all come from that, fundamentals, and we run emotion in college and then you're overseas. We just made a commitment that we were going to get 20 minutes every day of individual. And it sounds like nothing, I know. But in WNBA, as you know, it proves to be fruitful. And just staying married to that 20 minutes every day as an individual player. And sometimes players want gym. Sometimes people need film work. Sometimes they just need to talk and get something off their chest. Yeah. And that became instrumental for us because you don't get to practice. And that was the hardest part. And my coaches, they were like, oh, we need practice time.
Yeah.
And it's not necessarily and sometimes, it's not the wear and tear part. It's just the actions so people can get some reps at it and see it. It's not necessarily running through a wall. So we just say, look, this is what it is. If you're playing, 34 games in 100 days or 95 days, that is what it is. We can get this individual workout in, like you said, the fundamentals, and then marry that to the actions in the game and just keep that going. So that's kind of the formula that we try to improve players.
Yeah, the WNBA schedule is ridiculous.
Yeah.
I'm just happy we got rid of back-to-backs because y'all, back-to-backs are crucial. I think it was Indiana. We had played in, maybe it was Phoenix, and then we went to Vegas.
Okay.
And we were exhausted.
And the game was earlier. It wasn't like it was 7 o'clock. Oh, my donna mia, I remember. And my sister was in California. My sister was at a family reunion in California. She said, oh, we're going to come to the game in Vegas. I'm like, no, don't come. I don't want to see you. I'm tired.
They are truly exhausting. Like you don't have time to practice because everyone's tired from the game you just played in. Then you got to play in another game in another day. It's just hard to be able to balance that. And it can be overwhelming at times. As opposed to overseas, you play 2 games, maybe even just 1 game a week, every couple of days. And it's way more easier to manage. That's why I would like overseas a bit more.
Yeah. And yeah, you get in that rhythm, you can take care of your body. And I know a lot of times people talk about the WNBA and the travel schedule in the sense of equality. And we want that. But it's what you're saying. It's, it's the recovery time, 4 games in 7 days is 4 games in 7 days. So, hopefully it'll get better.
I pray so. I think so. I think we're taking great strides each year.
I agree.
It gets better and better.
Well,
last question of the interview.
Okay.
just give me what has been some of the greatest benefits of you coaching overseas and how it's impacted your life today.
Yeah, Bird. Um, this sounds crazy. Balance.
Mm.
You know, the collegiate rat race was if somebody getting there at 6, you got to get there at 5:45, right? But what are you doing? And when you're young, you don't know any better. So you know you're mistaking activity for achievement, right? I can remember I had a game in Russia. No, I called on a Saturday, and they didn't answer the phone, and I needed something answered, and Chef Ty said, "Pokey, it's the weekend. Make relax." I'm like, "Excuse me." So it was make relax, and so I till this day I have that. He said, "You Americans, you work, and you die. You should have a coffee. You have drive-through coffee." Like they laughed at us. You know, you guys don't even enjoy a cup of coffee. So I've been able to slow down, be a little bit more efficient, try to sleep another 30 minutes to an hour and just not go crazy. So that, and I say that was basketball, but that's in my entire life.
Yeah.
And it sounds weird that you would go somewhere not knowing anything and that's what you take from it. But that's probably been the most beneficial part for me.
For sure. I agree. Every time I love when I go overseas because my life just slows down and I truly see a lot of different beauty and things, the beauty and the struggle. I have time to actually process, what I'm struggling with and be able to communicate more with God, being able to pray a lot more, being able to journal a lot more. I just got time to just slow down. And a lot of my teammates have shown me that, like the way that they do coffee, like coffee is a mandatory thing overseas.
Oh,
Everybody
the coffee break, love
coffee
it.
break.
Love it. Love the coffee break.
Every day is a coffee break. You just
Yes,
get to
yes.
sit down, enjoy yourself, enjoy your teammates, and just talk and get to, just unwind from what you have. Even if you have a practice, you have 2 practices during the day, you have a coffee break in between just to be able to unwind. And I truly appreciate overseas and the beauty of that. And overseas has taught me day offs, actually taking days off. And like you said, in the college mindset, it's like no days off. I'm in the gym. I'm in the gym 7 days a week. I'm in the
Oh,
gym.
really? I remember. I told Jesse, don't you go to the gym with Bird. Tell her the gym is closed. This is crazy.
But yeah, I did do that. I did do that. It took me some time. But as I went overseas, I learned really in this pandemic year.
Wow.
I had to learn to give myself a day off, even if it was just one. Give myself a day off because
I hear you, but I don't know. Oh gosh, someone's getting ready to knock at my door. I hope my dog doesn't bark. I'm sorry.
it's okay.
It's the Amazon. It's Amazon. I'm sorry.
It's all good. It's all good.
But no, I'm glad because that's part of it too. Just incorporating that in.
Yeah. The beauty and all. See, I'm growing, Pokey. I'm growing.
Yeah, you're growing up. Baby, growing up. I'm proud of you, Bert. I'm not going to embarrass you, but I'm happy for you. And I'm going to shut up now because I'm going to sound like an old mama.
Oh, my goodness. So I appreciate you. Well, it's the last part of the episode, and it's the story of the day. And this is where I ask my guests, what is the craziest overseas story you got for me? I know you got some. So you can just give me one. And I've heard some crazy ones. I've heard my sister was telling me about her in China where they like brought her to this like disclosed location and like asked her to play. Like she was sick as a dog. And they're like, we need you to play. Like she didn't know. And she left in the middle of the night. She didn't tell anyone. She left in the middle of the night back to America.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow. Oh my gosh, Bird, there's so many. Oh my gosh. I don't know. You know what was unique? And I don't know, this is, I couldn't, and maybe only Shabtai did that, so that's not really a good one. He would have a party for both teams afterwards, and then the officials would be there. Did you know that?
No.
Like when I first went, yeah. And we play a game, and he would give, I think, $500 to the highest scorer on an opposing team.
Wow.
I'm like, wait a minute. And our team, and I can remember saying, can we give some money to who gets the most rebounds, right? But it was almost like we're going to compete, and then there was always something upstairs, and maybe it was just EuroLeague games where there was a nice table set up and you would have dinner with the people you just competed with. And you're grown, you have your little wine, you can, they'll have entertainment. And that was unique to me at first, right? That's not wild and crazy, but it was just unique that we can compete and go at it, but then we're gonna have a good time and celebrate this game, this sport that we're all trying to elevate to different levels. But some of the things is not good for TV or podcasts.
No, this is good.
We're like, whoo.
That's a beautiful way to end off on. I think it's beautiful to just celebrate the game of basketball.
Yes,
absolutely.
yes.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, Pokey. This was a beautiful blessing to have you on. I want to give a shout out to Christy and to Jesse, my two assistant coaches back in Indiana. You guys have been amazing people in my life and pivotal to the person and player that I am today. All three of you guys. So I appreciate you. Pokey, where can we find you on social media?
Oh God!
So people can find you. You're
just Pokey Chatman. I don't make it complicated. I don't have an alter ego name. Just Pokey Chatman.
Pokey Chatman. We see you, and so we can see you driving around in your dope cars, and you leaning back, you riding dirty.
No, just having a good time. Look, just having a good time. It's funny because I talked to Simone, and Simone loves the old cars. So I went to a thing on the coast. And she's actually looking for a car like I have now, the El Camino. So it's funny how things tie people together, from LSU to Russia. Now with her cars. But no, this is beautiful, Bird. I'm glad you're doing this.
Thank you.
And I'm proud of you. So keep doing your thing. Okay.
Thank you. Well, thank you everyone for tuning in. Episode 7 of Bird's Eye View. You can find me on Instagram at birdstheword_24. You can find me on Twitter at Erica McCall 24. And if you want to get some updates from the podcast, you can follow us at birdseyeView.podcast. Once again, if you listen in and you're enjoying the show, give us a rating, leave some comments. It'd be beautiful for us. We're going to keep it moving. We're going to keep it going, but it's always a blessing. So thank you all for tuning in. Deuces.